As he tumbled, ears over tail through the air, he managed to catch one last glimpse of Abilene. She was standing on the dock of the ship, holding onto the railing with one hand. In her other hand was a lamp. No, it was a ball of fire. No, Edward realized it was his gold pocket watch that Abilene held in her hand. She was holding it up high, and it was reflecting the light of the sun. My pocket watch, he thought. I need that. And then Abilene disappeared from view, and the rabbit hit the water with such tremendous force that his hat blew right off his head. That answers that question, thought Edward, as he watched the hat dance away on the wind. And then he began to sink. He sank and sank and sank. He kept his eyes open the whole time, not because he was brave, but because he had no choice. His painted-on eyes witnessed the blue water turning to green and then to blue again. They watched as it finally becomes a black as night. Edward went down and down. He said to himself, if I'm going to drown, certainly I would have drowned by now. Far above him, the ocean liner with Abilene aboard it sailed blissfully, and the China Rabbit landed finally on the ocean floor, face down, and there, with his head in the muck, he experienced his first genuine and true emotion. Edward, Tulane, was afraid. Chapter 7.
Oh, Edward. Oh, Edward. Dang it, Edward. Come on, who's going to get him?
He told himself that certainly Abilene would come and find him. This, Edward thought, is much like waiting for Abilene to come home from school. I will pretend that I am in the dining room in the house on Egypt Street, waiting for the little hand to move to the 3 and the big hand to land on the 12. If only I had my watch, then I would know for sure. But it doesn't matter. She will be here soon, very, very soon. Hours passed, and then days, and weeks, and months.
No.
Abilene did not come.
I don't know that Abilene is going to come down to the bottom of the ocean, Edward.
Edward, for lack of anything better to do, began to think. He thought about the stars. He remembered how they looked from his bedroom window. What made them shine so brightly, he wondered, and were they still shining somewhere even though he could not see them? Never in my life, he thought, have I been farther away from the stars than I am now. He considered, too, the fate of the beautiful princess who had become a warthog. Why had she become a warthog? Because the ugly witch turned her into one? That is why. And then the rabbit thought about Grandma. He felt, in some way, that he could not explain to himself that she was responsible for what had happened to him. It was almost as if she, and not the boys, who had thrown Edward overboard. She was like the witch in the story. No, she was the witch in the story. True, she did not turn him into a warthog, but just the same she was punishing him, although for what he could not say. On the 297th day of Edward's ordeal, a storm came. The storm was so powerful that it lifted Edward right off the ocean floor and led him into a crazy, wild, and spinning dance. The water pummeled him and lifted him up and shoved him back down. Help! Thought Edward. The storm, in its furiosity, actually flung him all the way out of the sea.
What?
And the rabbit glimpsed, and for a moment, the light of an angry and bruised sky. The wind rushed through his ears. It sounded to him like Grandma laughing, but before he had time to appreciate being above water, he was tossed back down into the depths. Up and down, back and forth, he went until the storm wore itself out, and Edward saw that he was beginning again to slow descent to the ocean floor.
Oh, no, come on.
Oh, help me, he thought. I can't go back there, help me. But still down he went, down, down, down. And then suddenly, the great wide net of a fisherman reached out and grabbed the rabbit. The net lifted him higher and higher until there was an almost unbearable explosion of light, and Edward was back into the world, lying on the dock of a ship, surrounded by fish.
Oh my gosh.
Ew, what's this? Said a voice. Ain't no fish, said another voice. That's for sure. The light was so brilliant that it was hard for Edward to see. But finally, shapes appeared out of the light, and then faces. And Edward realized that he was looking up at two men, one young and one old. Looks like some toy, said the grizzly old man. He bent and picked Edward up and held him by his front paws, considering him. A rabbit, I reckon? It's got whiskers and rabbit ears, and the shape of the rabbit ears at least. Yeah, sure, a rabbit toy, said the younger man, and he turned away. I'll take it home to Nellie. Let her fix it up and set it to rights. Give it to some small child. The old man placed Edward carefully on a crate, positioning him so that he was sitting up and couldn't look out to the sea. Edward appreciated the courtesy of this small gesture, but he was heartily sick of the ocean and would have been satisfied never to set eyes on it again. There you go, said the old man. As they made their way back to shore, Edward felt the sun on his face and the wind blowing through the little bit of fur he had left on his ears. And something filled his chest, a wonderful feeling. He was happy to be alive.
Two feelings we've talked about. He was afraid, and now he's happy.
Yeah. Look at that rabbit, the old man said. Look like he's enjoying the ride, doesn't it? Yep, said the young man. In fact, Edward Tulane was so happy to be back among the living that he did not even take umbrage to being referred to as it. One more?
To the end because, well, oh, we got time.
Chapter 8. Oh, there's Edward and the old man, the old fisherman. One more, okay? On land, the old fisherman stopped to light a pipe, and then with the pipe clenched between his teeth, he walked home carrying Edward atop of his left shoulder, as if he were a conquering hero. The fisherman balanced him there, placing a calloused hand at Edward's back. He talked to him in a soft, low voice as they walked. You'll like Nellie, you sure will, said the old man. She's had her sadness, but she's an all right girl. Edward looked at the small town blanketed in dust, a jumble of buildings huddled together, the ocean stretching out in front of it all. And he thought that he would like anything and anybody that was not at the bottom of the sea. Well, hello, Lawrence, called a woman from the top of the shop. What have you got there? Fresh catch, said the fisherman. Fresh rabbit from the sea. He lifted his cap to the lady and kept walking. There you are now, said the fisherman. He took the pipe out of his mouth and pointed with the stem of it to the star up at the purpling sky. There's your North Star right there. Don't never have to be lost when you know where that fella is. Edward considered the brightness of the small star. Do they all have names, he wondered? Listen at me, said the fisherman, talking to a toy. Oh, well, here we are then. And with Edward still on his shoulder, the fisherman walked up a stone-lined path and onto a little green house. Look here, Nellie, he said. I brought you something from the sea. I don't want anything from the sea, came a voice. Now, don't be like that. Now, come on and see. An old woman stepped out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. When she saw Edward, she dropped the apron and clapped her hands together and said, Oh, Lawrence, you brought me a rabbit. Direct from the sea, said Lawrence. He took Edward off of his shoulder and stood him on the floor and held to his hands and made him take a deep bow in the direction of Nellie. Oh, said Nellie, here. She clapped her hands together and Lawrence passed Edward to her. Nellie held the rabbit out in front of her and looked him over from tip to toe. She smiled. "Have you ever in your life seen anything so fine?" she said. Edward felt immediately that Nellie was a very discerning woman. "She's beautiful," breathed Nellie. For a moment, Edward was very confused. Was there some other object of beauty in this room? What will I call her?" said Nellie. "Susanna," said Lawrence. "Just right," said Nellie. "Susanna." She looked deep into Edward's eyes. "First off, Susanna, well, she'll need some clothes, now won't she?"
Oh, no, Edward. Things have taken a turn.